Oh, welcome to the CONVO Couch, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pastor Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
Oh, I got a little frog in my throat there, almost like Bernie Sanders did the other day. I apologize. Fam, we got a great show, but we have limited time, so we're going to jump right into it. A crazy week, State of the Union speech going on, but we had a lot of craziness going on, so we're going to just start off with a Come On Fam episode. So let's get to number one of Come On Fam. You know, the show that or the game where we like to play when we're just saying, come on out there. So to all the people out there pushing for Nancy Pelosi to be the Speaker of the House several months ago, fam, I think they must be feeling a little silly right now. Not only has she met with bigwigs from the medical industry to promise them that Democrats will not be pushing for a single-payer system this year, but she has now, not just once, but twice, dissed the Green New Deal, sponsored by our favorite person, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She called it the Green Dream or something, fam. And now she's giving the movement zero attention. All I got to say to you, Nancy Pelosi, is, come on, fam.
Exactly.
That was our big old drop. Any opinions about this, fam?
Well, I just think I've seen too many progressives and too many people say, oh, you know, I don't like Nancy Pelosi, but I love how she's attacking Trump and making him look bad. Like, that's all symbolic. I don't really give a damn of what she does, how she makes fun of Donald Trump. You know, you that appeals to your emotions, but it does absolutely nothing for people, and it does absolutely nothing to move things forward. And Ron said it best pretty much on his tweet. He said,
Plaque one.
maybe I'd be more impressed by Nancy Pelosi mocking the people trying to destroy the planet if she didn't also mock the ones trying to save it. So there you go. That's all I have to say about that.
No, I mean, it's a come on fam, man, and she's right. It's a Nancy Pelosi thing. Remember when they were pushing her, she said she's the most progressive one running for the job? Well, if she's the most progressive one, you have yourself a conservative party. What about that picture you have with your girl? You were talking about this with the big old clap. You remember?
Right.
Nancy Pelosi giving the clap, and they praised her in the media.
Right. So they thought that she was being sarcastic, and they thought that she was making fun of Trump and being sarcastic. But she then clarified and said she was not being sarcastic and that she was actually clapping for him because she wants us to stop. She wants the parties to stop bickering and find solutions. But
I thought she was clapping because she caught Bernie Sanders' eye and she realized, oh yeah, 2020, it's coming. Here's that big old clap.
That's what we wish, right? That's the meme that we wish we had. So.
All right, well, let's get to number 3 of Come On Fam. Come on, fam. Give me number 3.
We did, yeah. Number 3.
Number 2, sorry. Number 2.
Well,
we're skipping
2.
number 2, but yeah, number 2 for us. Go ahead.
So, the establishment still won't stop with the whole Kremlin conspiracies thing, but you've done crossed the line by stating that the anti-war candidate, Tulsi Gabbard, is the chosen one of Russian trolls. And then Casey Hunt actually had the nerve to ask the congresswoman this crap to her face. Take a look. Come on, fam.
Well, I don't think we have the actual video because we couldn't find it and stuff, but we did talk about this. There was this whole report out there that, you know, we have the article. It says that she's now the candidate. The Russians find their 2020 candidate in Tulsi Gabbard. This is getting a whole new level of ridiculousness now, fam. This is a big come on, fam. And the fact that they were able to ask her to her face, and you talked about this, the Syria issue is kind of heating up, the way they were tap dancing around this. If you have a chance, go watch this Morning Joe interview with Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, well, is Assad an adversary? Is he an enemy? Is he just a mean guy? What are your feelings? What are your thoughts?
And I want to
loaded questions, fam.
And I want to like just a little bit kind of amplify the fact that Tulsi's being painted as an Assad apologist again on Morning Joe. They questioned her on Assad. They kind of like railed against her because she said Assad is not our enemy, and Assad isn't our enemy because they're no threat to our country at all. So, and a lot of people just swallow that and are like, well, she should have said Assad it's bad. I'm like, why is he bad? And people can't answer that because they just hear it and they believe it. And so we're going to do a special show on Syria because there's so much information to unpack. But I do want to talk about her tweet right there real quick, where she did say that, to Morning Joe that Syria/Assad did not attack us on 9/11, killing thousands of Americans. Al-Qaeda did. No authorization to use military force has ever passed Congress to go to war against Syria. If the U.S. topples Assad, Al-Qaeda/ISIS will take over. Why do you prefer them to Assad? And I'm going to answer that question. They prefer him to Assad because they can control Al-Qaeda/ISIS, because we are the ones that helped in the creation of them. Yeah. Obviously, that's why we prefer them to Assad. So I could talk about that for hours. So that's just something that keep in mind. So
I like the fact that she's moving the debate into the right place. And I really wish she even would have went deeper on that interview and said, hey, well, what do you consider, Assad to be? Is he that bad that the fact that you don't even think that we can debunk Western media's plot to say that they did these chemical attacks? Because we've looked at every single which way from Tuesday they've debunked these things. But we can get on this forever. This is what I got to say to you, Morning Joe. It's the X you get. But let's talk about number 3, which is the new Republican tax plan, fam. This slipped by a lot of people over there, but on average, the banks saw their effective tax rate, fall below 19% when it was roughly 28% in 2016. Wow. That's not even to mention all the loopholes and the subsidies that we didn't put in there. But the effective rate went down almost 9%. And while the brakes set off a gusher of payouts to shareholders, firm cut thousands of jobs and saw their lending growth slow, making it almost impossible for small businesses to receive much-needed loans. So once again, fam, just like we did in 2008, we give these big banks millions of dollars out of our pockets only to see them screw us again. Come on, fam!
Socialism for the elite, okay, and
capitalism for the rest of us.
For the rest of us, yep.
Go to the next one, number 4, fam.
So, Mr. President, Donald J. Trump.
Donald J.
He campaigned as a non-interventionist candidate.
Yes, he did.
Okay? He screamed at Jeb Bush in front of his family in a debate in South Carolina by stating that they lied to get us into war in Iraq. He has talked about ending the war in Syria and Afghanistan. But now, Mr. President, you have this Trump attitude about supporting Guaido in Venezuela. And your security advisor, John Evil Geppetto Bolton, has been eyeing regime change in Iran. So what, Donald? What? Do you want your own wars now? Come on, fam.
Come on, fam. We talk about this all the time now. Donald Trump campaigned as that non-interventionist. You mentioned him. Evil Geppetto's by his side. They're eyeballing Iran. The whole Guaido stuff is just ridiculous and stuff. He is not a non-interventionist. He is not your friend. It's more of the same. And if you really cared about the migration problem, you'd care about our interventionist mentality, because that's what's causing the problem. Am I right, fam?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, let's get on to the next one. I got a big come on, fam, for this Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff, come on, fam. Let me tell you something. Adam Schiff is now supporting the Green New Deal. I mean, finally, we needed to go to this man's office, sing Christmas carols about him on board. But why, as soon as you do something good, you turn around and you give us more of the Russian bullshit? Just the other day, Schiff announced that the Democrats are launching yet another new probe into Trump's Russian finances. And you know who's going to pay for that, fam? Us, right? When will this neo-McCarthyism ever end? I mean, come on, fam!
When we start calling it out more, guys. And Tulsi's doing just that. She's one of the few people doing that.
No. Well, that was our episode of Come On, Fam, the game that we like to play to have a good time. Because, fam and I always say, come on. But let's get to another good part over here. Bernie's State of the Union rebuttal.
Yeah. So, you want to lead on that?
Well, we're going to lead up on that. We can really talk about this speech all day. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Bernie Sanders, for doing this speech. I mean, despite all the noise about possibly stepping on a woman of color's feet and upstaging her, after hearing her speech, and not just knocking it hard, but it wasn't great. We needed to hear Bernie Sanders speak. Because why? Bernie Sanders always sticks to the things and the issues that unite us.
And by the way, he in his rebuttal before anything else, CNN cut it out. He did thank Stacey Abrams, and he did all that.
And that's some scandalous shit, them cutting it out and kind of setting this image that Bernie's like not cool and stuff like that. The first thing he did was thank Stacey Abrams. Let's go to the beginning, number A over here, because Bernie starts off by mocking the president, okay, by going hottest economy, right? So take a look at what he does right here, number 48. We're going to start this off.
Trump has told the American people that the U.S. economy is the hottest economy anywhere in the world, that it is really booming. Well, that may be true for the members of his Mar-a-Lago country club, where the price of admission has doubled to $200,000. For those folks who go to Trump's club, and for the wealthiest people in our nation, Trump is right. The economy is really booming. In fact, for many of President Trump's billionaire friends, the truth is they have never, ever had it so good. But for the middle class...
Okay, stop that real quick. Right off the bat, fam, he sets the picture. He paints the picture. More of the same, income inequality. All these guys, the guys who go to his club, they're the ones who received a tax break. They're the ones who are prospering. Blah, blah, blah.
Right. So, again, there's socialism for the rich and horrible late-stage capitalism for the poor. I like how Bernie always focuses on the economics right off the bat. Yes. He plays no games. He goes straight into that.
Yeah, and that's where we're all united. So where we're all united, because this next part is that what's going on today, because we talk about this all the time when they say, oh, there's all this growth, but all the growth is for the top 1%. All the growth is for the top 4%. Where are the rest of us at? Well, Bernie sets the stage. Check out this next part, part B.
Working families of our country, the truth is that the economy is not so great. Over the last year, for example, real inflation accounted for wages for the average American worker is up by all of 1.2%, just $9.11 a week. In fact, real wages for that same worker, that average American worker, are lower today than they were in 1973. Let me repeat that. The average American worker, after adjusting for inflation, is earning less today than he or she did 46 years ago, despite huge increases in productivity.
Okay.
Sadly, millions of American workers are now forced to work 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills and to keep their heads above water economically.
Fam, he talks about what we're living. I mean, what we're doing. You know what I'm saying, fam? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're so focused on just getting a $15 minimum wage, I mean, even he's trying really hard, but even to me, that should already be a thing. Like, and the fact that every state has, $8, $9, $10 an hour, like he says, and the fact that inflation has, wages have decreased, rebuttals that whole argument that we're lazy, that we're not working hard enough, that we're demanding too much. How are we going to pay for it? Well, look what's happened. We've actually decreased our livelihood. We've decreased the way we're supposed to be going up. We're just moving down.
So. I think a lot of these Trump supporters coming in are echoing him when he says, the economy's doing good. They always say that black unemployment's up, all this bullshit numbers. No, Bernie Sanders states it like it is. Hey, man, it ain't getting any better. It's getting worse. He sets the picture. He paints that picture. It's getting better for these guys. They're the ones who benefited off these tax breaks. And what's going on with the everyday family? That's what's going on. And in this next part where I got a little emotional, because we talk about 1973. That's when I was born. I'm almost 46 years of age. So in my lifetime, I've never seen my wages go up, technically. But here's how he backs it up with statistics. And this is why I love Bernie Sanders, because he takes every single different group around of people doing stuff, and he plants that seed. Go ahead, my man.
In America today, and somehow or another, President Trump didn't mention this in his speech, we have more wealth and income inequality than almost any major country on earth. And it is more unfair, more unequal now than at any other time since the Gilded Age of the 1920s. Yes, the economy is great for the 3 wealthiest people in America who own more wealth than the bottom half of our country, 160 million Americans. Yes, the economy is great for the top 1% who now earn 46% of all new income in our economy. Yes, the economy is great for the top 25 hedge fund managers on Wall Street who made nearly twice as much income last year as all 140,000 kindergarten teachers in our country. 25 hedge fund managers. Yep, the economy is great for the 5 richest people in America who have seen their wealth go up by over $100 billion since Trump was elected, and for corporations that have announced over $1 trillion in stock buybacks in 2018 alone. Yes, the economy may be great for those folks, but it is absolutely not booming for the nearly 80% of American workers who live paycheck to paycheck, desperately hoping that their child doesn't get sick, praying that their car doesn't break down, or that they don't lose their job.
All right, well, yeah, that's we lumped those two into one, but once again, he talks about the statistics, and I love the way he kind of points out, like, look, these fucking 25 hedge fund managers are making the same as 140,000 teachers.
We've seen the teacher strikes. We've seen what they're fighting for. They're not even fighting for higher wages here as much in LA. They're fighting for the kids, for making sure that the kids get the education they deserve. And then we have these 25 hedge fund managers making all this money, and all these billionaires increasing their wealth. And it's literally, these people talk about socialism like it's this plague when they already have it for the 1%. And you know, and all this is a rebalancing of where this money goes. Yeah.
And I love it, the way in the form he did it with it mocking him. We're going to show a picture right here. Well, what he says, he kept on saying it's not a hot economy. Watch him right here, number 530, when he goes and he says these things, when he puts the air quotes on. You got to love it when Bernie's using air quotes.
This is not the strongest economy we have ever had.
Right there, the strongest economy.
Making fun of Trump.
Just mocking him the whole time. It's not the hottest, the strongest. And the last thing I'm going to say positive about him is real quick is when he just says this, I wanted to point this out, fam, because I know we want to make sure that we talk about some of the things we don't like. But when he acted presidential as can be, and he really, when I was listening to the speech, when he said this, I said, man, this guy needs to deserve the president. Watch how he just addresses really simply, really quick.
My fellow Americans, if the overwhelming majority of Americans...
I love it. I just want to get to that. When he said my fellow Americans, I was like, wow, he is acting presidential. Right. Like, I stood up and I was like, Bernard, you need to be the president of the United States. Fam, what do you got?
He pretty much is acting like the president of the United States. I mean, I think more people watch his State of the Union to actually hear about the things happening, because Trump doesn't address any of them. All that Trump's addressing is, oh yeah, we're free, the economy's great. Look at these white people that were affected by these illegal immigrants, like these couple of people. We're not talking about the
which was disgusting,
domestic terrorists that are constantly killing people within our own country. We're just going to focus on like the handful of bad immigrants that we might get, you know, and Bernie is focusing on the problems that are affecting people, and that's why people look to him.
And I love the fact that he's uber focused and uber laser beam specific about what the things are. When he ran against Hillary Clinton, there was a lot of things to talk about Hillary Clinton having race issues or being racist. But he said it when she called people super predators, that's racist. Apologize for that stuff. And when he mimicked, you know, those kids, that was racist, and implying that, you know, all foreigners are bad or all immigrants coming from Central and South America are bad. But the one part we also want to talk about right now, the bad, which is G, is that we talked about, this isn't that uber bad, but we had mentioned it about when he had talked about the specifics of voter suppression. He kind of mentioned the governors, which he was implying the Georgia, the Florida situation. Take a quick look here. We got 24 seconds of Mr. Sanders talking about that. We're going to break it down a little bit about this.
But somehow or another, he didn't talk about governors' efforts all across this country. Governors who are trying to suppress the vote and make it harder for poor people or people of color to vote. You can't talk about freedom in America and ignore the massive amounts of voter suppression taking place, denying people the right to participate in our democracy.
Fam, now I had mentioned to you that that was not the greatest thing in the world, because I think he's just naming one side of voter suppression, which we know targeted people of color in Georgia, target people of color in Florida. They suppress their vote, and that is true. But a lot of people in the middle, the people who've walked away from the process, one of the reasons they walked away is they feel there's no integrity in their elections, and he had left that part out. In other words, if he had said all the elections across the board need to be fair, then I thought that would have been more powerful rather than just kind of sectioning out the governor's situation.
Sorry, I was trying to sneeze.
Go ahead, fam. Help me out with that. Am I right or wrong there?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like that he mentioned that. I think it's very important to mention that, especially in regards to it relating to Stacey Abrams, how they've tried to paint him as this, anti, this racist candidate or this guy that doesn't really look into people of color. I think it's important that he, as a potential presidential candidate, mentions that. And I also think that what happened in 2016 is something that's difficult to touch back on because a lot of people don't want to touch on that. I do think he should have mentioned something about that, maybe in a different way, like say we need to work on our own election integrity in general. But I mean, I'm glad he did mention that, and I don't think it's like the worst thing he could have done. I think he's trying to appeal to a lot of America, and I think he should because he's running for president. So.
Well, I think that when he's kind of talking about the governors, he's kind of somewhat signaling to people on the left, whatnot. I think those people in the middle, he missed an opportunity. I could be wrong. I would have liked him to mention both forms of voter suppression, but that's why this next part kind of leads into the area where we can't stand it. And I swear to God, this has got to be, he had to make a deal with Chuck Schumer. He had to say, Chuck, I'll give you one thing, Chuck, one thing you want, and I'll give it to you. And it had to be this Russia bullshit. Go ahead.
Could it be because his budget proposed massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security in direct violation of his campaign pledge?
There it is.
How could Trump not talk about the reality that Russia, through cyber warfare, interfered in our election in 2016, is interfering in democratic elections all over the world, and according to the heads of his own national security agencies, attempted to interfere in the 2018 midterm elections?
Fam, this is the part that really pissed me off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like this either, but again, I also think he pivots from this point. He barely mentions it, and then he goes on to things he actually cares about. I think it's important that someone like him does this because someone like Tulsi isn't going to do that, and I think Tulsi will get the brunt of it, and then she will clear the way for him, and then he can choose where to go with it. I think it's very tactful. I think, it's hard to hear, but I understand why he's doing it, and I also like that he said interfered, but I would like to, eventually hear him say, we interfere in every election. We have been doing it for a long time, but I think we have another candidate that does that, and she'll push him there, and he... and vice versa. I think it's going to help him in the long run.
I hope so.
It's really hard to hear, but I think
it is hard to hear.
He doesn't focus on it though.
He doesn't focus on it. He kind of goes over it, whatnot. And once again, he's saying that they're messing with all these elections. Well, we know better than anybody that we've screwed with more elections than anybody. We're doing it in Venezuela right now, and that was also another area I don't want to get into. It could have been a little bit more on Venezuela. And once again, acknowledge the fact that Russia is not the reason why we have Donald Trump. The reason why we have Donald Trump is this awful party that still will not change, and we are trying to change them. And one person who's really trying to change them, fam, who's that?
AOC.
Oh,
so AOC had.
I think we should get music every time we say AOC's name. Like we could just do the dance like when AOC we mention AOC. We love this woman.
AOC had a very telling response as she was hearing the President's State of the Union. If we can show her face was all of us during this time. I mean, people like to say our BF. I think it's perfect.
Didn't Bernie have the same kind of face?
Bernie had the same kind of face. I like it when people are genuine and and going against the grain because they feel what the constituents feel, because Trump wasn't addressing any of our concerns. So why am I going to be happy? Why am I going to clap? So people criticized her, and I have my own friends who criticized her and said, well, she should be happy for America. Well, America's not happy. The majority of America is not happy right now. So you know what? She actually represents our face. And she said, why should I be spirited and warm for this embarrassment of an SOTU. Tonight was an unsettling night for our country. The president failed to offer any plan, any vision at all for our future. We're flying without a pilot, and I'm not here to comfort anyone about that fact. And exactly, she's not here to comfort anyone. We shouldn't be here to try to pretend that this isn't happening. We need to stop pretending. We need to face the and actually deal with the situation.
Donald Trump, your State of the Union, according to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And we would be awful not to mention what she actually appeared to be doing something similar by attacking the establishment with her newly won position in the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, which had a hearing on H.R. 1, the House Democrats' expansive anti-corruption and voting rights package.
Oh, yeah.
So, here, Ocasio played like a little lightning round game in which she pretends to be the bad guy, and she said, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. And
this is powerful.
Yeah, this was powerful.
Johnny Tsunami over there, show a picture of your face. No, he doesn't want to show his face, but Johnny's like, we should be talking about this. This is serious stuff, man. And a lot of people didn't know that all these laws are in place for the rich to continue to get rich, for them to cheat. And it's totally legal. It's not like what Iceland did when they took their country back, changed these laws, threw those assholes in jail, and then took back their country, fam.
So we're going to show a bit of this clip so you can watch for yourself.
Johnny, I know you love this.
She breaks it down.
Thank you, Chair. So let's play a game. Let's play a lightning round game. I'm going to be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. and I want to get away with as much bad things as possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest, even if that means putting my interests ahead of the American people. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn. Oh, and by the way, I have enlisted all of you as my co-conspirators. So you're going to help me legally get away with all of this. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn, I want to run. If I want to run a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees, is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
Okay, so there's nothing stopping me from being entirely funded by corporate PACs, say from the fossil fuel industry, the healthcare industry, big pharma. I'm entirely 100% lobbyist PAC funded. Okay, so let's say I'm a really, really bad guy, and let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected. Mr. Smith, is it true that you wrote this article, this opinion piece for the Washington Post entitled, "These payments to women were unseemly, that doesn't mean they were illegal"?
Well, I can't see the piece, but I wrote a piece under that headline in the Post, so I assume that's right.
Okay, great. So, green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off. And that is considered speech. That money is considered speech. So I use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So now I'm elected, now I'm in. I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America. Fabulous. Now, is there any hard limit that I have, perhaps Mrs. Hobart Flynn, is there any hard limit that I have in terms of what legislation I'm allowed to touch? Are there any limits on the laws that I can write or influence, especially if I'm based on the special interest funds that I accepted to finance my campaign and get me elected in the first place?
There's no limit.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by Big Pharma, come in, write Big Pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
Okay, so awesome. Now, Mr. Mirabani, the last thing I want to do is get rich with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry and cause, that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time?
You could do that.
So I could do that. I could do that now with the way our current laws are set up. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Say it, buddy.
Okay, so...
Fam.
I wish we could show the whole thing, but...
She was pulling teeth at him. Well, I can't see the memo, but yeah, I wrote something like that.
That was epic. That was amazing. You know who actually liked that, which makes zero sense, but is actually a good thing? Debra Messing. Debra Messing posted a tweet that was like, oh, I love AOC. AOC's my hero. And everyone's like, wait, she loves Bernie. Like, wait till she endorses him. Like, it's funny. And you know what? It's, you know, being a woman of color, being young, she is appealing to a lot of people. And I don't really care. Good. Like, whatever. You like her. I want centrists to like her. I want all kinds of people to like her. But what she's saying is what she's doing, actually. She's exposing everything that we've known to be true, but she's literally making them say it. She's making them like be like, okay, like this is true. She's openly showing just how corrupt our political system is. And she's saying like, you're going to help me get away with this. She's like making them feel bad for doing this and making them realize like how fucked up everything is, just like how horrible it is, and how it's legal, how these things are legal, and like how, you know, we put people in prison for minor things like marijuana possession, but yet these people get away with illegal crimes.
Can I tell you something, fam? In the 60s and the 70s and 80s, this shit wasn't going on. Okay, they've been slowly legalizing this stuff as we go along. So when you worked in that workforce the other day, you didn't have all this big type of government and these leeches sucking off everything, taking the vacuum power of all the money. You can actually make a few bucks in the workforce, but now they're all gone. All the regulations are gone. It's all about the rich getting more rich and kidding you in the pocket. And like they said, all these things right here, it's pretty much corruption is legal in the United States when it comes to our campaigns and our candidates. And
everyone's compromised. So another thing that let's quickly go into is that we have to talk about is the Green New Deal resolution. So Merkley and AOC came together, and they with provisions that have been actually founded by the Green Party, which should give credit for actually having this. Jill Stein started this in 2012, by the way. Bernie was a co-sponsor. He did a great video today talking about it. But as we can see, we have all of these Congress people who have signed on for the Green New Deal. It is a very popular thing right now. Even Kamala Harris and Cory Booker support the Green New Deal. Of course they are, because they're running. But, you know, we have Tulsi Gabbard there as well.
I believe Adam Schiff is now on there.
Adam Schiff for Brains.
Schiff for Brains is there. John Lewis.
Ted Lieu.
Ro Khanna, my man. You know he'd be there. Mike Levin. All these great people. Barbara Lee. But, fam, you know, a lot of them are on there. It's a great step moving forward. But once again, you know, it's not like any of this stuff is going to become law. This is the first step. I think you were saying that it's necessary, but it is.
I think we need to stop knocking things down, and I think we need to stop, just kind of wishing for these things to fail. Because I get that there's going to be criticism, but this is a person that's actually just got into office, and she's already doing this. She's doing things that nobody has had the courage or the audacity to do, and I think we need to support her instead of saying, well, this isn't really good enough. Like, I just feel like a lot of progressives want things to fail. They don't want to see success. And, you know, this is a success. It is a resolution. She said it was the first step.
Yeah, it is.
It seeks to cut global emissions from 40 to 60% below 2010 levels by 2030 and neutralize human-caused greenhouse gases entirely by 2050, which is extremely ambitious, by the way. It proposes a 10-year national mobilization plan to build smart grids, rapidly increasing American solar wind power share from 10% of today to close to 100% over 10 years.
Yeah.
So literally making us 100% reliable on solar and wind energy versus the fossil fuel industry, which is somebody has to lay it out. We have to start implementing the seeds. We have to start pushing that forward.
We have to change the discussion. We have to change the whole ideology. This is the first step. Because now all of a sudden, if you put your name on this, you have to stick by this. If you go back on this later on, you're on record saying you were supporting it, what, for votes? For political gain? For monetary gain, maybe? Whatever, for whatever reason, you support it, and now you're walking away from it. So the resolution is just as important as if when we down the road enact all this stuff into law, it sets the mindset, it sets the ideology, it sets the parameters. And I think it is necessary, fam. And I'm glad you're saying people should stop knocking it just because it's a resolution, because it is.
Well, we got to start somewhere,
step.
right?
Yes.
We got to start somewhere.
Changing the whole debate, and that's important.
And I'm just going to go over quickly some of these things. Like, once we are 2 degrees Celsius, which is predicted, the more than 500. Is that 500
million or billion?
Trillion in the best annual economic output in the United States by the year 2100. So all the wildfires that will be caused by 2015 will annually burn at least twice as much as forest areas. So she's basically laying out all of the problems that are going to happen if we don't do this. And then on the next slide, we have...
With the purple, yeah.
We're starting to talk about, whereas the House of Representatives recognizes that a new national, social, industrial, and economic mobilization on a scale not seen since World War II and the New Deal is a historic opportunity to create millions of good high-wage jobs in the United States, to provide unprecedented levels of prosperity and economic security, and to counteract systemic injustice. So she's not just giving you how good it's going to be. She's telling you how economically good it's going to be, how we're going to work it into the economy. It's going to create jobs, because the first thing Republicans say when it comes to the fossil fuel industry is, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to, where are these jobs going to go? Like, how do you think people are just going to give up? Like, no, we put these jobs, we transition these jobs into the sector of solar and wind energy.
Yeah. Kevin Kinsinger said this as well. He said to try to take the approach, because, we have this analytical approach as progressives and people who believe in science, that global warming is real, that climate change is real. But trying to get that same hard line argument to convince people from the center to the right that we need to do this is really hard. If you can bring in the economics into play, which he does point out, there's a lot of economics, there's a lot of money to be made, there's a lot of green new jobs. That's why I'm so scared, fam. We didn't talk about the whole infrastructure and Trump wanting to privatize it, because I don't want to. I want it to be done, and I want the Green New Deal to be attached to it, because I want to get green new highways, green new bridges, green new infrastructure. We need this here, and there's a lot of money to be made, and we don't have to send kids off to war to die for this. We use the sun,
and we're going to use the technology that we're going to do to eliminate the pollution and the greenhouse gases, and we're going to guarantee, it says right here, we are guaranteeing universal access to clean water. That is extremely important, because you know what? That also talks to Flint, Michigan, and how many people even here don't have access to clean water. And she knows that. Yeah. And she knows that. And so that's why that's in there. We also have how we are going to have the whole grid. We're going to build a whole grid that's going to facilitate for this to happen. And the buildings are going to have all of this embedded.
Absolutely.
In California, we already have solar panels and new houses happening.
We should get more of it. And the only greenhouse gases that should be going into the air are the ones I'm getting from my blunt. That's it. No more greenhouse gases. We got to stop burning these fossil fuels. They've been dead in the ground for years, and we're putting all this dead gas and this dead smoke into our children's lungs. Enough is enough. It's time to go green, fam.
And how we have to work with farmers and the people and the ranchers in the United States to collectively work on this as well, building more sustainable systems. This isn't just about being green and having green cars. This is about building an entire different infrastructure in which we rely on everything clean, more sustainable food, more sustainable farming, more methods of being healthy. Yes. And then
sun ain't going away, fam.
She also talked about the public banking. Guess what? When we had a rally for AOC, we all did a luncheon with AOC. We had Public Bank LA talk to her about public banking. Many of our people remember this. Ben Hawk, Madeline Merritt,
Carrie, Revolution LA.
We remember how she was introduced to this concept of public bank, and she really loved it. And so it's really nice to see the idea of public financing, technical expertise, supporting policies, and a public
It's such a guard dog, too. It's like when you get the public bank, they're going to make sure that we're investing wisely. We're going to have a board. We're going to understand. You can't go wander off and start investing in pipelines and in coal mines and in stuff that pollutes the air. With the public bank, it's another watchdog. And guess what? We reap all the benefits when we lend out that money, when it's our money. When we're operating as the bank, the people win, fam.
And she talks about also investing in education, including higher education, in order to make people aware of this new system and to have these communities be equal participants in this Green New Deal. So it's not just a one-dimensional thing. It's there's so many dimensions to it, so many complexities to it. It's going to require so many things for us to be able to achieve this. But she touches pretty much on the environment, on the food, on housing, on education, and on the economics of paying for this. So
it's
extremely
AOC being AOC. So far out the gate, been great. We showed you that very
Absolutely.
informative, just moving video of her showing how corruption is legal in our politics, in our campaign fight, our campaigns and our candidacy. And then she goes into the Green New Deal. The woman has just been on fire. Her and Tulsi have been amazing. And I think we've been doing some great shows exposing and talk about this. But let me tell you about something about Nancy Pelosi. You've been exposed again, Nancy. You have been exposed. You've been exposed. Fam, we had to get one of those before we get out the show and stuff like that. But we got to get to work, ladies and gentlemen. We want to thank you for watching us. Please go on our YouTube, like, subscribe, our Facebook, like, subscribe us there, fam. Is there anything else you got to say?
Just remember that we need to start somewhere, and it's not. This is just a resolution. It's not going to be perfect, but the fact that someone is laying out a plan similar to FDR's plan is speaking the same language, and and not only that, it's Bernie, it's AOC, it's people like Tulsi. All these people together are actually doing something good, and whether or not you're a Democrat, I think it's good to recognize that there are these problems and not everything's okay, but here are the solutions instead of just being like, well, nothing's ever going to get fixed. I mean, if that's how you feel, that's fine, but there are people trying to do something about it. So.
I think it's just great that this time around we got some strong progressive women out there, and now we're paying attention to 3 people, not just 1. Thank you once again. We want to thank you all for coming in and watching it. My name is Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella. Convo out.
Bye.
Bye.